We met, we talked, and it was epic. But then the sun came up and reality set in. Welcome back to Bloodlines and Backdrops. In this episode, we dive into the Vampire Diaries Season 1, Episode 2, Night of the Comet. Hey y'all, it's Amber Janae, and in this episode marks a significant moment because this is the first episode filmed in Covington. This is the first episode filmed in Georgia, but particularly in Covington as well, and the first episode that Jessica witnessed being filmed. So we're going to explore that today with some more behind the scenes stuff and things like that. I do want everybody to welcome back Jessica.
Hello.
She is here, and you know what? Episode 2, we're going to jump into it. We're going to jump into recapping this, and then we're going to show you guys some stuff later in the episode. Let's get into it. In this episode, we open it up. It's the same as the first one. Somebody's getting killed immediately, right? It's Vampire Diaries, yes, and they're ready. They're just murdering. But what's really fun about this episode and the people that get killed in the beginning, that's actually a friend of mine. Her name is Beth, and later in the series, you guys are going to hear from her. So she is actually one of the first people you see on screen in Georgia, and then, of course, one of the first people Damon kills when he gets here. So that's a really fun thing. So
I mean, that's a right to fame if there ever was one.
I mean, it really is. It really is. So she's actually in Africa right now, but has sent over some stuff for us to plug in. So you guys will get to hear from her in a little bit. But we get back to the other stuff. We've got, Stefan and Elena. They're basically writing the same thing in their journals about each other.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary, I met a girl. Dear Diary, I met a boy. Dear Journal, or whatever it is they say. It's so funny. We call it a journal, but it is Vampire Diaries. But then they call it a journal. Yeah. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to do it that way. That's just how it is.
The leather things that they write in.
The leather things that they write in with the ink pens. And Stefan uses a fancy pen, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
I feel like he does use like an old timey pen. Yeah. And I might be making that up, but I feel like he does.
I don't think it's an old timey pen, but I think it's a fancy pen.
Yeah, it's like a fancy
not like
older
a
pen.
Feather with the quill, but
no. And then his journals are definitely more old-fashioned than hers.
They have the tie.
They have the tie, and they wrap around, and hers is just like she got it at Costco. So
we sell those, by the way. If you'd like them, you can find them at mysticfallstours.com/store.
All right.
Just saying.
Over at the high school, we got Jeremy. He's still spiraling, right? He has learned nothing between the trek from Canada to Georgia. Yep. Yes, he has learned nothing. But he does call Tyler out in this episode, which I appreciate, because Tyler is being very rude and very aggressive after he was so mean to Vicky in the first episode.
Right.
And now he's trying to act like,
he's the best thing that ever was.
Yeah, and that like he's the one that's supposed to be with Vicky and like all this other stuff.
He cares about her, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he cares about her until other people notice.
Right.
Yeah, that's how it is. So Jeremy does call him out on that, and during this time, Vicky's still kind of in and out of it. So we know in the pilot episode, she wakes up and she says vampire, right?
Yes.
So we know that, but then there's still not much else about it. So she's not talking about a vampire. She's still in and out of it, but she's not talking about a vampire just yet.
Right.
All right. So we're going to talk about Mr. Tanner.
Dick Tanner. Number one Dick Tanner. I'm just going to tell you, that was very, very, very rude for him to be so mean to Aunt Jenna.
He's awful to her in this episode.
I mean, it's just so sad because here she's lost her sister too.
Yes.
And he is more or less degrading everything that she's been trying to do to be there for them. But he also tells her that Jeremy is on drugs.
Yes. And he, basically insinuates to her that she should have been able to pick up on that. And Jenna's like, well, probably, because, there was a time in my life where I had the munchies and I was doing those things. But at this point, I think that if she can just get them up and their teeth brushed in the morning, she's probably pretty... Yeah. She's doing a good job if she can do that.
I think Jeremy's been getting a lot over on her, though.
Yes,
and she
he does.
starts to realize how much at that point. So what he tells her is valuable, but it's not done in a valuable way.
No, he has terrible bedside manners. If you think of it that way. Yeah, it's not good. Tanner sucks, okay? Yeah. Mr. Tanner sucks.
We don't like him.
We should get him on the show.
Okay. I'll make a few calls.
We should. That would be fun. All right, so... Now we see Stefan, I think he overhears Matt saying something like, she said something about a vampire or whatever. So talking about Vicky. So Stefan makes his way to the hospital.
Yeah, but he's going to sneak in.
He's going to try to try to compel her
Yes.
to forget that it was a vampire. And then Matt sees him, and Matt kind of follows him through the hospital. Stefan walks into a room that's full of blood, and he's like, oh, no.
Right.
You think for a minute that we're about to lose Stefan. We're like, oh,
Yeah.
no, he's about to
Yeah. Something's fixing to happen.
he's about to lose it in here. But he ends up jumping out of a window or something. So we get through that. And so we don't find out until later that the compulsion doesn't work. But we know Stefan's trying. He is trying. So now we find Aunt Jenna. She's got to lecture Jeremy, right? So she's got to tell Jeremy, hey, I'm not dumb. And she says to Elena that she feels bad that she's going through his stuff.
Yep, she's going through that room like it's going out of style. She's going to find them drugs.
Yeah, she wants to try to find it.
Yeah.
And then she wants to try to talk to him about it and try to get him to, do different things and be better. And, she doesn't, at this point, she probably just doesn't want them to be taken away from her. So she's got to get Jeremy to start.
She wants to do good by her sister. That's got to be weighing heavily, I would think.
I would think so, too. Because that is a lot of pressure to take on raising two kids who have kind of already been raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
But you have Jeremy visits Vicky also, and then Vicky thanks him for carrying her out of the woods.
Yes.
Which is very sweet that he did that, and Tyler did not.
Yeah,
okay.
She starts to realize he might really, really care for her.
He might really care for her, and this is where girls get kind of silly sometimes, because Tyler was the reason you ran off by yourself,
right?
And then you got attacked, and then Jeremy's the one that takes you out of it, and then you still are like, oh yeah, hey, what's up, Tyler? I don't understand it, but also, we'll see things kind of change a little bit as we go through, but it's very high school.
Yeah.
After that, now this is when Elena goes to the Salvatore house.
Right.
So Elena gets in, she walks in, and she's looking for Stefan, but she meets Damon.
Hello, brother.
Hello, brother. Who she knows nothing about.
Nothing.
So at this point, Stefan has not mentioned having a brother. Stefan has not mentioned that his brother has been in town or is in town.
Yeah.
Stefan's kind of MIA, and we know as an audience that he's running around doing stuff trying to, fix what's going on with Damon.
Right.
Or what the damage that Damon is doing.
Yeah. He's already fixing Damon's mess.
He's fixing up Damon's mess. But here's where I love Damon. Like, immediately, Damon comes in and he's like, hey, have you heard about Catherine?
Yeah. He used to love someone else.
He used to love someone else. You know how he's supposed to be 17?
Yeah.
Well, he already had a great love of his life.
Yes. And why doesn't she say, isn't he 17?
I know. Why doesn't she say, how old were they when they were dated? 14? What are we? Those are loopholes that you have to look past in TV shows to get to the storyline. And sometimes that is hard for me and Jessica, because we do, the little things like that do irritate us sometimes. Like, it is probably just because maybe we're a little snottier just because we watch film and see how film is done.
Because we know so much more.
Yeah, and you know so much more. And so then you're just like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, so we know that. She comes in, learns all that stuff, and now we're getting intrigued. All right, we're getting intrigued because Elena's starting to feel a certain way. All right, because she's, this is a couple of times now this is the first time now that Catherine's getting brought up, but it's not going to be the first time. Like, this becomes a repetitive thing for a while.
Yeah.
But you can tell that she feels self-conscious about it, that it makes her feel a certain
She's like, who is this girl that I knew nothing about? I didn't know he had a brother, so there's that too. So it's a little bit of a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Fast forward to Vicky still being in the hospital, and now she's having nightmares about Damon. So she's seeing his vamped out face. Mm-hmm. She's seeing it behind her in the mirror.
Yep.
And she's seeing it when she's falling asleep. I think that we learn later that means Damon is around, because he can get inside of your head.
Right.
He has the ability to, vampires do have the ability to do that. So I don't necessarily think it's her having nightmares of what happened. I think it's him there.
Right.
Planting those nightmares in her mind.
That's kind of what I took.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I get, which kind of gives us a glimpse of Damon's coming in hot.
Yeah.
Like, Damon's coming in real hot.
Right.
And then we got Tyler acting like a bro again, which nobody cares about. Vicky turns him down, whatever. It becomes a whole thing. They're going to get back together at some point. It is what it is. We're over the Vicky and Tyler drama, all right? Vicky, you should have picked Jeremy, okay? It doesn't matter if he's younger than you. Just have some fun, girl.
Yeah.
This guy really cares about you. He's so sweet. All right, so now let's get to the lighting of the square, or the lighting of the night of the comet.
Night of the comet.
The night of the comet. So the comet is going over, or it's getting ready to come over Mystic Falls. And we're going to learn this comet is very important,
Yes.
This comet is a lot of the reason why Damon may be back.
Right.
But they're lighting the stuff on the square, and Stefan is kind of explaining to Elena that he's got a very complicated relationship with Damon. Again, this is another red flag because he's already poking holes in his own story.
Right.
He's not telling the whole truth, where he's come from, who he is.
And she's starting to kind of hear that too. She's hearing that she's not getting the whole story.
And she's not a fan of that, I think. I think that she's had a rough enough year that she just wants a clean start, and a clean start means we got to trust each other out the bat.
Date somebody and, make goo-goo eyes, and that be that.
Yes. And so then at this point, Stefan says to her, Catherine was a long time ago. And again, how long?
Yeah.
6 months, a year?
Yeah.
How old were you, buddy? Like, what kind of love story are we talking about here? Kind of crazy. So he talks about that. I guess he tries to make it seem like, oh, it's a long time ago. It's not anything that you should worry about. And kind of just brushes it off. And then that's when Elena says her famous quote that we said in the beginning. And this is a quote that has just gone through the series so much, where she says, we met, we talked, and it was epic, but the sun came up and reality set in. Yep. Which is probably a little dramatic for someone you just met.
Yeah.
I don't even think you've really gone on like a date. You haven't gone to eat anything together. You haven't, even haven't kissed yet, held hands.
They haven't called each other on the telephone.
They haven't called each other on the telephone. And we know that because at one point in this episode, Bonnie gives Stefan Elena's email.
Yes, her email.
Here, if you want to contact Elena, here's her email address. So that was a very weird thing. But I guess that's how people were getting a hold of each other back then.
I think she said email and phone number.
I think she did say both. Maybe
but still, you still think email.
I'm going to tell you.
I thought we were beyond that over here. We were just over here,
and here's what's weird. I've dated. I was married once, and then I'm on my second husband, my last husband. I'm not going to get married again. But in between my two husbands, I definitely dated. I don't remember emailing people.
No.
I don't remember us emailing each other what was going on. And
that's for the side piece.
And text messages were still there. Text messages were there. It was a lot of 44552266 to try to figure out what you're texting, but you could text. Yeah. So that part's weird. Yeah. But it's funny. It's just one of those little just one of those little things.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, now let's get to the really fun part of this episode when Damon kidnaps Vicky at the Mystic Grill and takes her up onto the roof, right?
And I saw that film.
Yes.
That was fun.
So Jessica got to see this film, and did it seem different watching it in person versus what you saw on TV?
Oh, totally. It's just different because of the way you're viewing it, though. I saw what I saw, and that episode, it did come across the same way as what you saw, if that makes sense.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of changing of what we see versus they didn't film this and then they didn't use that. There wasn't a lot of that. It was a more straightforward, yes, they filmed what we saw, that type of thing. But being the first time that you see them and they're up on the top of a rooftop and you're trying to get a good shot and you're trying to figure it out, and the crew guys don't know you yet and they're saying don't take pictures,
right.
So that was the day that we bought a better camera. So
they're like, don't take pictures, and obviously took them anyways,
always.
But here was the thing, we were pretty respectful about it.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like you'll learn like throughout as we talk that we weren't dropping stuff the minute we saw it, the minute it happened.
Right. We always held back.
We would have never been able to build the relationships that we did with the different business owners and homeowners and things like that, and the Vampire Diaries. Without it.
It was okay to use them as long as you used them after it aired versus before it aired.
Because to them, this was free promotion.
Yeah, this was,
this was like
you're advertising.
Yeah, you're advertising the shit out of this show by coming out here and taking the photos and watching things and whatever. And
it had not even aired yet then, really.
No, it hadn't even aired yet.
And they've already got fans out here wanting to watch. So that was a big deal.
It was
for a new show.
It was a big deal for a new show.
A pilot show,
Yeah. So that's fun. That's cool, though. That is cool. And you'll see, like, as we go along, when you get to see a lot of Jessica's collection, you're going to know that we're not full of shit. Right. She would not have these things if someone didn't like her. So I think it's very important to know that. What do you have? Do you have 4 homes now so you can keep all your Vampire Diaries stuff in it? What do you have? No. Are you keeping a couple of double wides in the backyard?
The IRS is listening. No. So, I will say that I do have the banner from Night of the Comet, and that was one of the first props that we saw that we like really wanted. We knew right on, oh, they're going to use this every time they do something important, and this would be something neat to have. And so we worked hard to get those banners. I bribed a lot of people in the beginning, but towards the end, they just gave them to us.
Yeah, it was just part of it.
They just come by the store and hand it to us. Here you go. And so things changed a lot, but it's so neat to have them all now.
Yes, they added to your
see
collection.
them in the row, and
because it did. There was a party going on every week in Mystic Falls. That was the thing. I don't know what the tax rate is in Mystic Falls, like what the citizens of Covington or of Mystic Falls are paying to have all these parties every week. But you'll see as we go through all the different banners and everything we have. There were parties, so many parties on the square all the time. Right. But I love that you noticed right off the bat the square is going to be important.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was easy to see and know just because of how expansive it was. It wasn't just a small scene. It was a big scene every time.
It was a big scene every time. And it was so important that the clock tower was there.
Yes.
It was so important that the clock tower was in the background, which we'll actually show you in a little bit, because the rooftop of the Mystic Grill is not the rooftop of the Mystic Grill.
No.
So we'll kind of show you that here in a minute, since we brought that up. But that's just going to give you kind of an idea of the importance of the square and how much of the square was actually used. And it was like a lot of it. All right. So back into the episode. So he gets her up on the roof, and then he compels her to think that it is Stefan that attacked her.
Right.
And so, and he's trying to get Stefan to eat her. And Stefan's like, no, I don't want to do that, blah, 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 blah. So then he finally just kind of gets tired of Stefan being a baby, and he's like, all right, I'm not going to mess with you anymore. And he lets Vicky go. So he tells her, that it wasn't Stefan, and for her to move on.
Right. And she says she ripped my stitches.
She does. She ripped her stitches. And then this is a line we all love when Stefan's like, what are you doing here, dude? And Damon's like, that's for me to know and for you to dot. All right.
There you go. Yeah.
That is it. Maybe we should put that on a t-shirt. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one. Yes. So for me to know and for you to dot. We have used that line
so much.
So many times. There have been times where we'll mess with each other. Somebody will text me something about a tour, and Jessica will be like, what's going on? I'll be like, well, that's for me to know.
Yeah.
And for you to dot. And then I get written up. So
no, we don't do that here. No.
All right. And for the rest of this episode, they're really just wrapping things up, getting ready for the next episode.
Right.
We see Jeremy sees Tyler and Vicky making out, and he's not happy. No. All right. He's going to show her how unhappy he is that next episode.
Definitely goes.
Caroline officially meets Damon. Okay.
Yes.
So we know that she had seen him in the first episode. Yeah. I think we kind of left the first episode thinking that they had already got together, but they had not yet. Right. And this episode does end with the two of them hooking up, all right? Yeah, or it looks like they're hooking up.
I mean, it looked pretty hot to me.
It looked like they're hooking up, but then he bites her. Yeah. So I'm not sure.
Some people might think that's pretty hot.
Some people might find that they might find that pretty hot. Yeah. I mean, honestly, as long as you're not trying to kill me, I'm okay with it. I guess I'm okay with it. A little bit of blood, whatever, and it'll be all right.
I mean,
it'll be all right. No, we understand why girls like Damon. We get it. Okay,
totally
I get it. Do. Yeah, I totally understand that. Elena makes a comment. Oh, she shows up to the no. She shows up, not a comment. She shows up to the Salvatore house.
Yes.
To watch the Comet with Stefan.
Yes. How
and
sweet.
Then they have their first kiss.
Oh,
because he's so cute, and he like grabs her face, and he's like, "This is reality right here." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's
She's
what
a
I
Stefan
want."
Fan.
That's the love that I want. All right, I just want the little face, and the grab, and the cute words, and yeah, I don't want to be attacked like Damon does. Wow. Anyways, so my boy Stefan gives her a kiss. They finally have their first kiss when we thought they were breaking up 10 minutes before in the episode. Yeah. And let me tell you, Elaine and Stefan breaking up, that is a repetitive thing on this show.
It is.
There is a lot of them breaking up, which
ready.
We will get ready, my lord. But yeah, so that's it for episode 2. The behind the scenes stories that we share on this podcast are ones that we either experience firsthand or have been given permission to tell. Please don't repost or claim these stories as your own. This fandom thrives on respect, and we want to keep it that way. Also, please keep in mind, we're going off memory here, all right? It's been well over a decade, so while we're doing our best to be accurate, we might get a few details wrong. A few of the small details could be off. And you know what? We do encourage you to feel free to message us very nicely if we've gotten something wrong. We're going to get into, I think, what a lot of people want to hear, and let's talk about Covington. Let's talk about that Covington connection.
Okay, so for the Covington connection, we're going to kind of get in there and talk a little bit more. This episode, again, is going to be the first time that they did film in Covington. So that means that we've talked a little bit about it, but we're going to show some photos and kind of do some little reminders, which are our receipts, obviously, and kind of break into that. So what do we see? We see Elena's house,
yes,
the real house.
We see the real house.
So it is white now, and it's looking like it's supposed to be there, and you know, everybody's going to love it, and you get to see it on the tour. That's just my little plug for the day. The town square, which is from the jump, it is home.
It is home.
That's just the best way to kind of put it. It is home. We're looking at it from where we're sitting here, and it seemed like the best place to start the podcast from, to get started for that. So really, really neat. The Mystic Grill, kind of. So we see the inside of it more, and that is sound stages, and we'll talk a lot about that. And then the outside is going to actually be where the girls are sitting and they're talking at the table. That's actually a lawyer's firm locally here that was that way for a very long time when they first started filming. So it was not a restaurant until way past like season 5 of you watching the Vampire Diaries. So kind of neat to know that it changes and the differences there. And we'll talk a lot about that as we go on. We see the rooftop of what's supposed to be the Mystic Grill, which is actually at the time our Thai restaurant. It is now Bread and Butter. So if you have been to Covington or seen Covington recently,
then I hope that you've been to Bread and Butter, because their coffee is so good.
You know where Bread and Butter is. It's also where the Damon star is out front. So we have a walk of stars.
We also have a collaboration coffee with them. Damon's Compulsion. So if you come into town, you can get a collab coffee. It is a whiskey flavored coffee, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes. It's got a whiskey flavor to it, and it's a fan favorite.
It is a fan favorite.
Sure.
And let me tell you, it tastes good with Brothers Bond.
Yeah.
Like, I've tried it. It tastes great. So that's a little 2-for-1. But while we're talking about the roof, tell us a little bit about our friend Ella.
Okay, so Ella is actually someone that I met during filming, and eventually Amber did as well. And
she was there day one with you.
She was there day one, and she didn't live here either.
No.
She drove like an hour and a half, I think. I think hour and a half to get here every time.
She's closer to Tennessee than she is Covington.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Like, I actually have a newspaper article from the Covington News way back when, where I and my daughter are sitting on a bench. It is freezing cold. We're all covered up with a blanket with cups of coffee, and the sun's going down, and we're watching them film the Vampire Diaries. Yep. So we were, we met her very early on, but when we needed our pictures for the episodes, like Amber said, we've been through a lot of phones since then.
Yes.
I can't even tell you.
So
I've had 3 cameras, at least 4 laptops, and
several Facebook pages. Also
a MySpace page. It might tell our age.
What's the thing we used to keep the photos in the website?
Oh, Photo Bucket.
Photo Bucket. We had several photo buckets. Dropbox. I know that we have a couple of those. So shit's everywhere.
Yeah. So it was hard for us to just put our hands on every picture that we ever took. So I said, let's call Ella. So Amber called Ella, and she sent us, she had everything.
Yeah, she said, you need receipts? I've got receipts.
So she sent over a lot of the pictures that we took together, or, I took some and she took some or whatever, but we used her camera a lot. And she was very, very nice and said that we could absolutely use it. We're going to have her come on at some point as well, because she was there from the beginning too.
To the end, the beginning to the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And she loved the show just as much as the rest of us. Yep. But some of the pictures Amber's going to show it now are actually pictures from them filming on the rooftop of what, again, is supposed to be the Mystic Grill, but it's Bread and Butter now. And you'll actually notice in this picture, they're up there with the directors. Mr. Marco Siega is in the white shirt.
Who did Dexter.
Yes, he did Dexter. And a little fun fact, in the first season of Vampire Diaries, they used the same director the entire time. After that, they had a different director every episode. It was a culmination of about 10 directors that came back every season.
And some of the cast members started directing episodes
yeah, towards
as well.
the end, we got some of the cast members. So that definitely changed from your first season. And in this picture, you'll notice that they're actually lifting up everyone on the side of the building.
Because they would not let us in from the inside.
Yeah. No, you couldn't come in through the inside, so they had to lift them up through the side with a lift so that they could film. And we know this now because we also have the store here in one of these buildings, and I can tell you that the only way to get to the rooftop of most of these buildings is through the roof. Like, you have to go through the ceiling in a little square because the buildings are from the 1800s. So I don't even think they could have gotten the equipment up without the lift. So they lifted every last thing up to the side, and then they took upon filming. And they mainly used that one not just because it was supposed to be the Mystic Grill and that's what they wanted to look like, but because that was the best shot of the clock tower.
Yes, that was one thing. Yes, that's one thing I did want to bring up, because we do kind of talk about this on the tour a little bit, because everyone assumes that the rooftop of the Mystic Grill is the rooftop, and it is in the sense of, in real life, yes, the rooftop of the Mystic Grill. But for the show, if you're looking at the clock tower, it's so close to the clock tower. There would just be no way to get that shot in a way that would look good.
Yes.
It's just way too close. So I'm sure they wish that they could have used the actual roof. That probably would have made things easier, because it's a lot easier to get on that roof than it is this roof over here. But it just didn't make sense.
Back then, that wasn't the case.
It was closed off?
Yeah, it was completely closed off because it was still the lawyer's office.
Oh, okay. So then it gets opened up when it turns into a restaurant.
That was
that's
actually a big part of the improvements that they made.
That's fun to know. So look, we all learned something. I didn't realize that. I just know that now I can get on the rooftop pretty easy. So. We've got some other pictures here from filming, so that Ella sent us over, and I want to show off the Bonnie and Elena ones first.
Yeah, those are cute.
So this is really cute. You've got Elena coming across the street, and I love this because it's a very classic Elena Gilbert outfit that she's wearing.
Is.
Yeah. These are the kind of outfits you see the girls on the tour wearing all the time. I love it. It's so adorable. And then here is Bonnie and Elena. And they're actually, I'm pretty sure, between scenes here. Mm-hmm. They're kind of just joking around and laughing with each other here. And then here's another one where they're just kind of laughing and having a good time.
Yeah, they're waiting on the next take.
Cut.
Yeah.
Cut.
They're turning that camera. It's going to be a while.
It is going to be a minute. Now, this picture is special. When I put it on our social media, I will make sure that you can see Ian's petting a dog in this photo. And the dog's cut off. Now, in the original photo, the dog is still cut off, but not as much as when it printed. But I bring this up because he was petting the dog.
Yes, and then he was signing one of my shirts. So he's actually knees to the ground signing the shirt. And we have the shirt. It actually hung in my daughter's room for a very long time, way back when. So kind of neat to know. But he was always about animals all day long, every day. Fans learned early on if they brought the dog or maybe the baby,
you were going to get his attention.
Absolutely. So there were a few that used that to their advantage.
They absolutely did. We were like, when did you get a dog?
Yeah. You know, that's okay.
We weren't bringing our dogs out here, but we didn't have to. That was the thing. That means there's a good chance that you probably had one of the first autographs that Ian gave out as Damon.
Oh, I did. We actually have that one, but we also have one that he signed behind the scenes for Brandon on a jacket that said, "I Heart Vampires," that I think we bought at Walmart on Black Friday.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
That was back then, when vampires were just becoming the it thing,
so
to speak. So we had that one too. So yeah, we did have some of the few ones of him as Damon. I hadn't thought about that, but that's kind of cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
And then this last little picture of Damon. This is him back behind the scenes. They're in between takes. It's just a cute photo.
Yeah. It just shows you what Ella was thinking about.
Yeah, it tells you. Yeah, Ella was Team Damon. She's always Team Damon.
Always.
I was very alone, just so everybody knows. As a Seven fan, I was very isolated. They were all mean to me. They bullied me all the time. It was terrible. But this is a fantastic, just like candid shot, I feel like.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited to share this with you guys. This is very much an Ian moment. He's stretching. He's getting in Damon mode. He's getting into Damon mode. Now, you also mentioned that during this second episode, the director brought your daughter over.
Yes, so Marcos again, and he's actually the one who gave us the banners a lot of the time in the beginning. So he was very, very, very sweet, and he loved meeting us filming. And he actually, we said that it was her birthday. So, I'm just saying.
Which means they couldn't say it was her birthday again for a year. So now Brandon's birthday every year was in like July.
Yeah, but
she's
okay.
actually born in November. So
it's okay. It got her to go back behind the cameras where the directors were and put on the director's headphones and get to watch the little screen. So back then we knew that was pretty cool, but we didn't realize how cool it was until, we realized how it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, and how big the show was. Too,
yeah,
and how
so
big the show
it
becomes.
Was very neat, and it meant a lot to her, of course. And that's just how we began making those relationships, though, as well, because we were there from the beginning, and being there from the beginning, I think kind of it meant a lot to them too, because they knew it was before it was something.
Hey, and listen, and I'm not even trying to spill a lot of tea right now, but there are some people from the beginning that they didn't like the whole time.
Right.
So that is, that's just being honest. There are some people that they may or may not have liked the whole. I'm not name dropping.
There were things that you learned, and
there were rules that were broken. There were.
I can't tell you how many times a crew guy said, "I'm just going to put Jessica right here," and I would say, "Don't you take a picture. Don't you do it." And I just have to be the boss that
Listen,
day.
she had to get on me a time or two. Yeah. Not necessarily because I was doing wrong, but I was young and acting a little wild sometimes.
And Amber's kind of loud when she talks.
Amber is very loud. Amber is very, very loud. So
shh.
I'm actually, they probably had to edit me out a few times.
I'm sure.
In a couple of episodes that happened on this where they're like, God dang, there's Amber again. Yeah. Get it out.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
All right, guys, that's it for our receipts. That's the receipts we have for this episode. So I think now what would be a really fun thing to do is we'll go into our MVP and quote of the week.
All right.
My MVP this episode, I'm going to give it to Jeremy Gilbert.
I love Stephen McQueen.
I love him. He's a mess, but I feel like he's our mess in this episode. And I feel like he really shows up, taking Vicky out of the woods, still, going to visit her in the hospital, still trying to be there for her. And not in a sense of like, he's not showing up with drugs. He's not doing all these things. He's like, hey, I actually care about you as a person. Right. So Jeremy Gilbert, MVP of episode 2. And then I had picked this quote. I kind of picked this quote because I feel like it kind of humanized everything that was going on. We know that Stefan and Elaine are like really sad. And that's kind of probably why they were like, attracted to each other. But she says, I'm scared if I let myself be happy for 1 minute, then my world's going to come crashing down and I don't know if I'll be able to survive that. And Jessica and I, when we talked about this, we thought, and I say humanize this, and I don't want to get like all sad or anything, but the past couple of years, like we've lost grandparents and, we've had some grief in our own life. And I think everybody kind of does. So I feel like that's a quote that you can really relate to because, you do start to get happy after being sad and you're like, wait a second. Is it okay? Is it okay? Is everything going to be okay? Am I going to, and it's a very scary feeling sometimes. So I loved that they did that in episodes. So
they took the time for it.
Yeah, they took the time for it. They took the time to explain, grief and heartbreak and things like that. And that quote, that sums it up for me. All right. So as I mentioned before, my friend, her name is Beth Dent. She's actually in Africa right now. She's going to be gone for a month. So when I first texted her, I said, hey, I want to get your experience for being an extra. And she responded to me, and I just want to read what she said. She said, except I wasn't an extra. I was the scene opener for episode 1. So I'm like, hey, girl. All right. Yeah. So, hey, it is what it is. You're right. You weren't an extra. Like, I love that. She told me, she said, I am the scene opener. And that is exactly what she is. And then, of course, we know she gets killed by Damon. So anyways, we're going to plug that in and tell you guys about her experience.
The story of me landing the first role or first kill in Vampire Diaries was really fascinating because it was such a big deal that Vampire Diaries was coming to Atlanta. I was 25 at the time, and we just knew that this show was going to be huge. So the name of my character was Girl. And it doesn't seem very pizzazzy, but it was fascinating because the energy around this audition and the intensity of this role and the fact that I'm like going from kind of making out with my boyfriend in a tent to literally getting murdered, and the emotional ride in between made a very fascinating audition. And so they called us in, and this was back when everything was in person. And it was a long day. We just sat in the waiting room, and then people had whispers of like, oh, maybe this role could lead to something, which was obviously not true because you saw my character die. But, everybody was so excited about this and the energy surrounding it. All said, it was a long day of auditioning, and I'm thinking maybe we had to come back for callbacks in person. And then you had to run and be afraid and pretend all of the things that happened in that original scene, the opening scene of episode 1. It was wild and very intense, and everybody was being competitive. But it was a really, really cool experience. I think when I got the call, it was so exciting because I wanted this role so badly. And I remember somebody in the waiting room saying they really want a blonde. They're really looking for a beautiful blonde. And I am the antithesis of that, okay? I'm this 5'2", curly-headed brunette. And so in some ways booking that role when all of the women in the Southeast were trying to get that role was a really big win for me. And that was really cool. And then I just kind of wanted to stick it to that girl who said that to me, which was probably not a thing I should be saying. But me booking the role was the stick it to. And that was a really fun kind of ha, because sometimes in those rooms when you're auditioning, people say things to kind of throw you off your game. And that was really what I think her intention was. And she didn't win. I went in, did the work, and got the part. And that's what it's about. It's about doing the work, keeping your head down, staying focused, and booking the role. I get asked all the time, what was the favorite part you've ever done? Or what was your favorite scene you've ever filmed? And I have to say that Vampire Diaries, this scene is up there. It's probably my number one. And it was my favorite for so many reasons. But first of all, I unfortunately did not ever get to work with Ian directly because a stunt double jumped from a crane at the end of my scene and was actually who took me out. But the way that they filmed it was by the time it got to me and I was jumped on, I also had a stunt double. People might not be aware of that. So Ian, though, was often at the production office when I would be up there. You have to go for wardrobe fittings, you have to go for paperwork, signings, anything that entails pre-production. You can be up there and you could possibly see a cast member. So Ian was there one of the days. So I didn't get to work with him, but I did get to meet him and he was very nice. The auditioning process, as we've discussed, kind of sets you up energy-wise for a really, really great experience. But the actual filming was the most technical I've ever had to be on set. And here's why. The first night of filming was all stuff outside of the tent. So everything that we did revolved around very technical camera placement. There was fog in the woods. There were 50 people in the woods in production that were, running lines, power lines through the woods. And you could see various motion out there, but you didn't know where anyone was. So it was super creepy. And then they gave me a flashlight to look outside. And when I stepped outside the tent, they were like, okay, you're going to step outside the tent. You're going to take your flashlight. You're going to run it through the woods to the right. You're going to run it through the woods to the left. You see that red dot over there? You're going to take your light. You're going to cross the lens with that light. And then you're going to stop right here at this point. But you can't shine your light directly on the lens too long. So you got to do it quickly, stop. And then when you stop, you're going to turn your body and then you're going to push your flashlight to that limb, not directly where we're going to have your boyfriend placed, but, over to the right. But you still have to look where he is. Everything was technical about where your body was moving, where you were looking, where the light was shining, where he would be, but you couldn't look there. And then when I actually filmed the part of seeing him kind of bleeding and on the tree, I had to fake the whole thing. He wasn't up there. And so that was actually the other crazy part. And so then you take off running and you're running through the woods and people are all around you. You can see no one. It was super exhilarating. You're trying not to trip and fall or look like an idiot, but you're also trying to be in the scene. And I can tell you, when you're running alone in the middle of the night in Covington, Georgia, in the woods, no matter how many people are out there, there's something chilling about that. So it was fun. I feel like I'm going into way too much detail. But yeah, there's really no particular craziness, creepiness, other than the thought of all of these eyeballs on you, but not being able to see anything, not being able to see anyone except for the path you're supposed to run. And I'll never forget getting the feedback I got, which was the highest compliment. When Nina Dobrev came into the makeup trailer the next day when I was filming for, I can't remember if we filmed back to back or the next week, but she came in and she was like, hey, I heard you filmed a really great scene. Like, I heard you did an incredible job. And nothing could have been more flattering than to hear her say that to me, who was the lead of the show. When the show aired, I had collected all of my favorite people. I don't remember whose house we were at, if it was my own house or if it was, I'm pretty sure it was at my apartment. Oh, I wish I could remember. But I will tell you, we watched it live as you had to. I feel like you couldn't DVR anything. Plus, there was so much like joy surrounding it and something really cool about being able to watch this show live. And we wanted to see what the show was going to be like. So yeah, it was a really cool experience to watch it live with all of the people that I love, or at least most of them. And it was really cool to see. I had already been killed many, many times in my tenure. So that really wasn't like a shock for me, but to see that all the technicalities of everything that we've been working on come to life, and then to see how cool it conveyed, and to watch yourself work in an environment that was really high intensity, and then to get to the car and to be banging to get in the car and the car's locked, and to turn around and it be silence, and like, I don't know, I felt a lot of pride in the work that I did, and I just am so grateful I had the opportunity. That particular role taught me a lot about what I could do, what I was capable of, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Looking back, I cannot have more of an attitude of gratitude about the whole experience filming The Vampire Diaries, from the people that I met, some of which I have and can call friends, and the overall like monumental moment of filming such a cool and critical scene for introducing the filming of The Vampire Diaries in Georgia and watching it grow from there. I don't think many of us get to be a part of a pilot or an episode 1 of an inaugural series, and then it grow into such a cult classic and have spin-offs. And this for me was a really great part in my journey as an actor. And it is one I'll never forget. I'll continue to talk about what it was like to be on that set and what it was like to film that scene. And hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I did, because it was really a really cool thing to do. Something to note about the process of production is sometimes you have to go into the sound studio and record ADR, which is just dialogue replacement, because running through the woods, I might have hit my mic, or they might not have gotten the best sound, so they may have to dub over what they recorded to make it sound clearer, more authentic, whatever that might be. And I think was crazy about that, this was the first ADR job where I like really had to be in a booth with myself, watching my scene, but like having to be terrified and screaming and running, just like, and they're like, okay, well, and it just had to feel authentic. So of course you're having to run and you're having to get your heart rate up, and that was really fun too. And most people don't realize that not everything happens right then and there. It's such a process. And so the ADR process was really cool, because that was one of the first times I'd been in the booth and worked on something more difficult than just your standard voiceover. It was really laying lines over some real intense scenes, or I say lines, sounds of fear. But that was a really cool thing to kind of bring up, because it was a little secret nugget element that we added in there, so that now you can watch that scene again and know, oh, Beth's in a studio there. Like, she's not actually, that's not what she was doing. I mean, I probably was doing that, but they had to record those screams throughout the run to the car and the fear later.
All right. This is one of my favorite parts. So we kind of talked in the last episode where we're doing this fan reactions and throwbacks, where I kind of go on a little deep dive where I'm on the internet archives looking at old fan forums and Twitters and things like that. And I also would love to hear from y'all. So if you have opinions about episodes coming up, or something silly to say, or something that you notice in an episode that you want us to talk about, I would love to hear it. Or if you have something on the deep internet that you said a long time ago that you're willing to bring back up. I'm not willing to bring back up my old Twitter, so I'm not willing to do that. But if you were willing to do that, that would be fantastic. So let's start off with somebody saying, still not liking Stefan and Elena. They are incredibly cheesy and really boring. I died laughing when Stefan said, I met a girl, we talked, it was epic. Probably one of the cheesiest lines I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Now, I would agree with that if he wasn't.
It sticks.
He's repeating Elena.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that
Yeah.
if that was the case. But I think what's important about this is from the beginning, and I asked Jessica about the books the last episode, a lot of fans and a lot of people watching it, they were not happy with Stefan and Elena just immediately getting together. So you'll see as we're going through it, and I'm deep diving, that there were a lot of people that were very anti-Stefan and Elena from the beginning. They wanted Damon to have her just straight out the bat.
Yeah. And Elena was blonde in the books, by the way.
Yes, she was blonde in the books.
Yeah. All right, Matt, the big brother, is absolutely adorable. He's grown on me. I think he might become my favorite character. Y'all, I love me some Zach. So.
We do love Matt, and this is again, I think that almost every episode
Matt back then.
Everybody loved Matt, and I think almost every episode I've pulled a part where someone has said something nice about Matt. I think the next episode actually might have 2 or 3 fan reactions from Matt, because Matt kind of does really well the next episode. So we'll kind of see as we go through. But we got one more that I wanted to bring up, and this is so funny to me because I'm like, you're watching the wrong show if this is how you feel. But they said, I would like to have an opening scene that didn't involve uninterested people dying. That's my friend Beth you're talking about. First of all, she's not uninteresting.
Yeah.
It's been 2 episodes in a row. I get it. There's a vampire that's killing people.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
They didn't get it because I want to see someone die every episode.
Yep.
It's a vampire. I want dead people. I want you to eat on people. I want you to kill folks. I get it's the CW and it's got to be toned down a little bit, but if you're going to just straight up put vampire in the title, let's do it.
Yeah, well, then we got
Let's
to kill
do it.
somebody.
So I don't agree with this at all. All right, guys, we are back for another Brothers Bond moment. Why, Jessica? Because we want to get sponsors. Sponsor us, please.
Come on.
Listen, we've done a lot for you guys. We need you. Ian, listen.
Okay. We won't even talk about the thing that's the thing.
We won't talk about the thing that's the thing. We won't tell everybody that I almost hit you with my car once. It's fine.
No.
Everything's fine. We just need you to please sponsor
Or the
us.
charity. We won't talk about the work with the charity.
So much we could say. Sponsor us. Okay, let's get into the drink though. Okay, so this week I chose the Brothers Bond Ranch Water, but I'm gonna add a little bit of a Georgia flair to it. And this is one of those drinks where you kind of can mix your own flavor. So again, you're gonna need to go to YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram to see a video of me making this drink. But for those of you listening who want to make one and drink along while you're watching the episodes with us, here's my version of the Brothers Bond Ranch Water. We're going to need 1 ounce of Brothers Bond Bourbon. We're going to need 1/2 ounce of lime juice. And then we're going to need 1 ounce of watermelon juice. And then you're going to top that with a seltzer. So you'll just have a glass of ice, put all of that in there, top it with a seltzer, give it a little stir, and you have a really, really refreshing drink. Again, you could put any kind of flavor in you want. You could do peach, you could do apple, you could do any kind of flavor you want. I chose watermelon and lime. It's summer in Georgia, and that's what we're munching on right now. It's watermelon and lime season. Yeah. So that's what I chose for that. Please make it and share it with us. And again, tag at Brothers Bond Bourbon and hashtag Bloodlines and Backdrops so we can get them to sponsor us. Okay, thank you. Fans, we need you. We need you behind us. We need you to cheerlead for us, please. Sponsor. Some of this is going to be edited. All right, we are back for episode 2. As you guys know, episode 2, Night of the Comet, was the first episode they filmed in Georgia in Covington. All right, so for this episode, we also pulled a drink right off of the Brothers Bond website. I'm very excited to make it because I am very much a seltzer girly. I really enjoy them. So to be able to kind of make my own at home seems very exciting. So we are going to make the Brothers Bond Ranch Water. Except for I'm going to do mine a little bit different. I'm using watermelon, which is not the flavor they used on the website with their recipe, but I don't think that matters. I think you can use whatever flavor you want. So I've chosen watermelon. So we're going to go in with our shaker. It's already got ice in it because again, we want all of our drinks to be chilled. All right. So we're going to go in with 1 ounce of Brothers Bond Bourbon. We're going to fill this right up to the top. Then we're going to go in with some lime juice. So we're going to go in with 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Here we go. 1/2 ounce. We're going to pour that in there. And then we're going to go in with 1 full ounce of our watermelon. And again, you can use any flavor you want. I chose the watermelon because it's one of my favorites. So we're gonna go in, we're gonna pour it. All right, and then you're gonna shake this up. So probably gonna have trouble with the lid again because that's a very amber thing right now. So we're gonna get this together. We're gonna shake it up. We got our ice in there. We're gonna get this cold, everybody. We're gonna shake it. We're gonna shake it. We're gonna shake it. Did you see that? That was so quick. Not even edited, guys. Swear to you. Swear to you. All right. So now at this point, we're gonna strain into our glass, and then easy peasy. The next thing you want to do is top it with your favorite seltzer or sparkling water. Simple, simple. And then you want to take your spoon and you want to give it a little stir, all right? Because you want to make sure everything is all mixed together well. We're going to give it a little stir. And now we have our Brothers Bond Ranch Water, which is our homemade seltzer. Very excited to try this. Let's see how it tastes, guys. That is refreshing. This is your summer drink. Trust me, this is insane. This tastes so good. This is gonna be my go-to summer drink. Please make this drink, you guys. This is the Brothers Bond Ranch Water. Try it with different flavors. Let me know what you do, all right? And hook us up with it. Let me see what you make. Tag us, hashtag Bloodlines and Backdrops, and then make sure you tag at Brothers Bond Bourbon because we want them to what? Sponsor us. All right, you guys. Thank you. Have a good night. Next time on Bloodlines and Backdrops. All right, y'all. Episode 2 gave us comics, chaos, Caroline's first real brush with the Salvatore brand of trouble. But buckle up because next week it's going to start getting really messy. Episode 3, Friday Night Bites, brings us our first real high school drama moment. And then we've got Stefan playing sports, the dinner from hell, and an introduction to another Mystic Falls queen. You're not ready. Or maybe you are. I don't know. We are, though. And who's going to join me? Jessica's going to join me again. I am going to make her do these first few episodes with me, especially because I know that her ass was here and she needs to talk about it, okay? And then after that, we're going to bring on some other guests and stuff, but it's going to be me and Jessica for a while. So thank you guys so much for listening in. And remember, we appreciate you guys watching this Rewatch with Receipts. This has been a great time. Thanks for listening to episode 2. Stay safe, stay vampy, and remember, in Mystic Falls, nothing is ever as it seems.